What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Mustard, back with another video. I know what y'all thinking. Dragon's Dogma 2. This game's been out for like 3 months, so I'm gonna do my best to explain what's going on here. So, story takes place. You're pretty much, of course, you're the Arisen, and apparently you are the king of Vernsworth, and apparently you get set up by people in the kingdom, and they pretty much get you thrown in jail, and they swap you for another guy who has this little necklace around his neck or whatever, and like the stone that's in the necklace apparently has the power to like basically make him seem like that he's an Arisen and have pawns and be able to control them and stuff like that, but he's not. Anyways, the only people who really remember is like the GOAT, Captain Brant. I was calling Captain Bryant for the longest too, by the way. It's so funny, bro. I was calling that Kobe, but anyways. I think the main thing for me here was what did they do from the first game to the second game? As y'all see, you know, of course the pawn system, remained the same. But I will say, to touch on that, I feel like the pawn system in this game is weaker than it is in the first one. I'll say, like, okay, in the first one, if my pawns were like suffering from like debilitations or anything like that, if I gave them potions and stuff like that, they would actually use them themselves if you actually, commanded your pawn the right way, or, gave them the lesson, the stuff that they need to be prepared for battle. So that was really disappointing. But like I said, it's the pawn system, it's Dragon's Dogma or whatever. But the main story of the game was literally you were stuck in like a time loop because of the gods. So you could only be in like one part of the world because of the gods had you in the time loop. And you pretty much had to fight your way out of it. That's pretty much the whole point of Dragon's Dogma, because you get your heart stolen from the dragon, which you're going to have to be at the end of the game. Sorry, spoilers. But to go back a little bit, I talked about the pawn system. Another thing that I really wanted to touch on was the enemy types. Of course, y'all just saw the Griffin. I'm glad the Griffin made its return. It's a lot more prominent in this game than the first one. I swear to God, in the first one, I seen that thing maybe twice, and that's about it. They got the golems back. The golems was pretty cool, but they came like late game in the first one, so I'm not really mad. So I'm pretty happy that they're back. Of course, ogres is back, and then they got like armored ogres, and then I forgot what them hairy ogres are called. I don't even remember at this point. But other than that, they got different monster types. They got the same monster types from the first one. The few of them that were different were like you get to fight Medusa, which I think she's in the first game. Somebody comment if she's in there or not. I do not remember. It's been a minute. And then they got the Sphinx, which, yeah, I wish I could show y'all gameplay of the Sphinx, but I am currently still trying to find that thing. Like, Jesus Christ, like, they did a good job for that. But, yeah, the dragons are in there, the drakes, and then this dragon that I'm currently fighting now, and then they got what are they called again? I don't want to call them orcs. I forgot what the hell they're. The goblins. Jesus. The goblins are still in there, stuff like that. The thing that really sucks about the monster types in this game is that there were way more in the first one than the second one. And don't get me wrong, because I've talked about this a lot to a lot of people, and I feel like I can't really judge it because the first Dragon's Dogma, the real problem, I wouldn't say problem, I would say like the thing that they did the best job on was when they came out their DLC. It literally opened the game more, and the DLC isn't out for this game yet. Hopefully we're getting some. Maybe it'll open the game out more, but like, yeah, monster types aren't really there for this game, so I was a little disappointed on that. So you see it right now, I can't really aim that bow and arrow. So let's go to vocations, the bread and butter of the game, honestly. The vocations pretty much remain the same from the first one. they're not that much of a difference. The only difference is that you know, in the first one you get a Mystic Knight, which, please, for the love of God, bring that back. I don't know why that's not in this game, but it's not. And then they had like some cool assassin class for the first one. I don't remember. It's been a minute. In this game, yeah, they still got Mystic Archer, because that's in the first one too, but I didn't really play with it. Mystic Archer was pretty cool in this game. I actually gave it a shot. As y'all see, my bow and arrow skills are trash. So, yeah, other than that, since that's in the first game, you got Trickster, which is new, and then they had Mystic Spearhand, which was pretty cool, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Y'all are probably gonna see some of that in this gameplay. And then they had a Warfare. I think it's called Warfare. Some people call it Wayfarer, or whatever they want to call it. Whatever it is, what it is. And that's pretty much just that's a vocation that combines all of the vocations, and that's pretty cool if you know how to, you know, maneuver yourself around in this game. That they literally say it's for seasoned vets who've been playing the game and they know what they doing. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I ain't gonna. Vocations was nice. Vocations was nice. The thing that I really liked about Vocations this time around too was that Vocations came with like a special move that you had to go find in the world, or you could get from questing. It wasn't like you just built your vocation up and you got moves, so that was pretty cool. Late in the game, I also find out that you could improve your vocation. You can upgrade it, make it better and stuff like that. It's like the same thing with the equipment system. Yeah, of course, equipment and turn it back, that's no brainer. That was pretty cool. I didn't really have an issue with that necessarily. Other than that, you know, back to the story. Like I said, you're pretty much stuck in the loop and you had to get out of it. Now, as you're seeing, this is like towards the end of the game. There are two things you can do towards the end of the game that makes it stand out. You can fight the dragon like you did in the first one, which you fight him, you just him, and the game ends. Like, literally, deadass, the game just freaking ends, which is that's what I did, because I didn't go to the second part of it until I went into like New Game Plus, because I wanted to do more. Other than that, this game wasn't bad. I enjoyed this game. It just felt incomplete, because I felt like there's more for you to do in the first one than it was in the second one. Like, the second one probably had the better exploring and stuff like that, but the first one has like the notice quest boards and stuff like that. And I mean, like, people aren't gonna be like, oh, okay, you know, that doesn't really matter, but the story was a little better. In this one, I felt like them getting rid of you in Vernsworth, it starts off well, and they just completely, like, it's like everywhere. Like, you don't really remember the story because you're doing questing and all that stuff. And I think they do a bad job of keeping up with the story. Like, you're pretty much just figuring out why you got put out of Vernsworth, and you're supposed to go to Back Batal to get help. And literally, when you're in Back Batal, it just turns up into you fighting a dragon. They don't even really address, like, hey, we need to get you back in Vernsworth. Unless you kill the dragon. If you kill the dragon and don't do the second part, yeah, they'll just put you back in Vernsworth and you'll get the open arms. But, like, they don't really do a good well of explaining that. So it's kind of like, okay, like, I'm just doing a whole lot of nothing for no reason. Before I go into the second part of this game, I do want to mention, capes in this game. I get what the purpose was for going for them, was for like the debilitations, or like the increase of abilitations that you could get. But honestly, I felt like capes were freaking whack in this game. I don't know what was going on with that necessarily. So I felt like capes were useless. And I should have touched on this when I was talking about the equipment, but yeah, capes felt useless, you know. cool, whatever. But I think, like I said, I don't think this game was bad, but for me, if you don't kill the dragon, there's a part in the game, of course, for everybody who's played, when you're about to go fight the dragon, you're flying on top of him. You can either not do anything and it triggers for you to fight the dragon, or you could go into literally probably the bread and butter of the game. The second part of the game, you go into what is called the unmoored world. And you pretty much, it's pretty much what I said. You're pretty much stopping the gods from continuing their cycle to only have you in one area of the world. You pretty much kill the god so you can break the cycle of the arisen cycle, pretty much. That was pretty cool. I very much enjoyed how they did that. What was the problem? I mean, I wouldn't really say what was the problem. I enjoyed the Unmore for what it was because I understand what they were going for. The problem was like that there was more monster types in the Unmore world than it was in the main game. So like when you play the main game, you're probably gonna get tired of the monster types because they don't do that much for it. But in the Unmore world, the storytelling's better. They remove the water. There are beacons that you have to go fight to go destroy certain monsters and stuff like that, and they're pretty cool to fight. But like I said before, the monster types and stuff like that were better in Bitter Black Isle for the first game, and I can't shun them for that because Bitter Black is a DLC, so I won't give them, too much hate for it necessarily. But the Unmoored world really did its job. You get to see like the Gore Chimera, which is pretty cool, which you can find them in the main world if you go in caves. Like caves was like the big thing of exploration for this game, going into caves and figure out what you can find and do what you gotta do. But the Unmoored world had the story. It was pretty much survival, and the world was like creeping in, like, what was it? The brine was creeping in. It almost felt like I was playing like Warzone or something like that. You only had a certain amount of time to do stuff before the brine caves in and kills people. You pretty much have to just save the towns and stop the brine from killing people and stop the cycle that was going on. So that was pretty nice. I actually just beat the Unmoored world not too long ago. You get better equipment from the Unmoored world. You get better enemy types. You get fairy stones and stuff too, which is actually crazy and stuff like that. They give you way more fairy stones. I will say I do enjoy Dragon's Dogma 1 for having that Eternal Fairy Stone, but that's just me being a little hoe, I ain't gonna lie, because that ain't in the second one at all. This game was rather enjoyable too. I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I'm gonna keep saying it. This game was enjoyable. I don't see why it got so much hate as it did. It just feels incomplete. I feel like it needs a DLC. Once it gets a DLC, if they do the DLC right, I don't think I'm gonna have an issue for it. Other than that, I don't really think I have much to say left about the game. I will say Potions 2 feel kind of lackluster because most of the game's not really that hard. Like the first one, of course, the DLC makes it hard. I feel like once we, get that DLC, it'll be harder. And also, another thing that really got me too was the Rift Crystals. Okay, let's talk about Rift Crystals real quick. All right, if everybody remembers in the beginning, the first game, Rift Crystals was very important for the first game's DLC. I know I'm bringing it up a lot, but it was really important because you needed Rift Crystals to get armor and stuff like that. The reason why I'm bringing it up because they brought Rift Crystals into the second one, and I have no idea what to do with them. Like zero, none. I'm just like, what are they for? I get that they were probably for like nostalgia, but they literally brought them into the game, and there's nothing for you to do with them. Like you're just wasting them. I mean, like there's a vendor you can buy, vendor guy you can get who sells you Rift Crystals and stuff like that. But other than that, they're pretty much useless. Like you're not even gonna spend them. I'm like 100% honest. Like people probably just didn't even spend their Rift Crystals. Come on now, like what's the point? But other than that, like I said, this game was a good game. And final verdict for it, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, I don't think this game is bad. It just needs the DLC. And I feel like once we get there, it will be pretty nice. It will be pretty nice. And before I leave, I do want to touch up on one more thing. For everybody who was complaining about like spending money and all that stuff in the beginning, why? They had like this little thing where people were complaining because you could just buy port crystals or buy the little harpy thing or whatever. And literally, just don't spend your money. That was literally it. I didn't even know it was a thing until people were complaining about it. Other than that, that's it for me, y'all. Dragon's Dogma, like I said, 8 out of 10. Not a bad game. It is worth a play. I will say that before I leave too. It is definitely worth a play. But if you play it and you ain't played the first one, I strongly recommend you go play the first one. But y'all, until next time, I'm out.